We can do double entendres and we can like be naughty. But if we're
Yeah.
talking about that, there's no way around it.
No,
So
no.
clean
I
it up
think
for the show.
I think there's no way to clean that up. That's dirty.
That's right. Let's do this thing.
You got a team, here's a word to the wise. You want to dominate your league? Go to Footballguys.
Football, I'm living in a fantasy. Football, got everybody mad at me. Football, cause every game I had to win. Football, I gotta be a champion. Football, I'm living in a fantasy.
You've got to be a champion in championship week. We are here for you. Part 2 of the week 17 preview on the Audible is Cleveland and Washington. And I don't like talking about the Browns quarterback bloom, so I'm going to leave that up to you. And then we'll discuss everything else that's going on with this team, including maybe more Kareem Hunt. I know Hunt GMs are like, can we just get him next year where he's a free agent? He goes somewhere else. And it looks like Cooper's going to play. And Njoku was very disappointing last week. And memo to everyone, I don't need to tell you if you didn't take my advice. Just don't tell me. Like, I've had friends text me like, you told me to start Njoku, but I didn't. Okay, congrats. Awesome. I'm glad for you. I'm glad you made it, right? Okay, so like, all right, I get it, David Njoku. Well, let's talk about the Browns going up against Commanders. Commanders are more interesting based on what's going on there. So let's get through the Browns side, Bloom.
Yeah, this game has a lot of implications for Washington, not much for Cleveland. Although Deshaun Watson did score a rushing touchdown last week, and he's at least in consideration as a streamer. Although Washington got Chase Young back, not full speed Chase Young. They're probably going to play him, but would you be surprised if Nick Chubb is only like an 8, 10, 11-point play this week? He's slowing down. He's playing through an injury. Again, Cleveland has nothing to play for. Kareem Hunt, I know he was only like a 9th, 7th, 10th round pick, whatever. His demise has not been greatly exaggerated. He's having no impact in these games. We're not even thinking about him as a what the heck flex. We are thinking about Amari Cooper, who showed he still got game, even though Dallas disagreed or otherwise decided it was time to show him the door. Donovan Peoples-Jones, what the heck flex. David Njoku, a very solid tight end here, as we should see this offense look a little better since we've given that quarterback a month now. So no rust excuses anymore. And at least in terms of the Washington offense, there's no more Taylor Heineke excuses.
All right. And now with more Carson Wentz, I guess this means a bump for Curtis Samuel. Like that's what we're talking about here. It's like, okay, Jahan Dotson will still be your red zone presence, and Terry McLaurin, you got this far. Of course, you're going to be starting Terry McLaurin. But Wentz really was leaning on Curtis Samuel. So maybe that's the play. Antonio Gibson, maybe not as much because he's banged up, maybe incredibly limited if he does play. More Brian Robinson, I guess, for this team. But it's the Commanders making the decision of going to Carson Wentz. And how does that have the fantasy implications this week?
He said, there's a very different picture here. Terry McLaurin was Heineke's guy. And if you have Terry McLaurin in a final, this is not good news for you. I'm not saying to bench Terry McLaurin. I have Terry McLaurin on one of my teams. I'm not benching him. He's Terry McLaurin. We're back to the what can you live with test, right? I can live with losing because I stuck with a talent like Terry McLaurin, even though the quarterback that favors him less is in. I can't live with Terry McLaurin getting past Cleveland for a 70-yard touchdown and knowing I should have had that in my lineup and I just overthought it. So yeah, he's still a very solid upside wide receiver 3 flex play. But the more salient advice here is Curtis Samuel, Jahan Dotson too. Remember when Carson Wentz was giving Jahan Dotson all those chances to win the ball in the air? Jahan Dotson looks good. It's funny because he wasn't included in that big top 5, even though Washington took him at that level in terms of draft pick investment. Maybe because he didn't have the gaudy physical tools or highlights they had, Cease, he might end up being the best out of this whole bunch.
When was he ever the red zone presence like that? That's been the main thing for me. He's a speed guy. I've obviously talked to KJ Hamler about him because Hamler was his like mentor. But when was he ever this red zone guy? And he comes to the league, he's touchdown, 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 and it's all short stuff. It's not. They haven't even unleashed Jahan Dotson.
No. And the thing you can see about Dotson too that's exciting. I can't remember who put this breakdown of this play out there, but he understands how to manipulate the defender. Maybe the most important thing in the NFL as a wide receiver, the tools, route running, release. It's, do you understand that you're in a one-on-one battle, mental and physical, I always used to use the lumberjack thing. Every now and then I got to dredge these back up, right, Cease? Because, when we were kids watching ESPN, we'd watch anything, and they'd put anything on. Back in the early days of ESPN, the lumberjack competitions and the log rolling, where you're simultaneously watching someone else's feet that are trying to tump you in the water while trying to tump them in the water. And that's what's happening, right? Footwork and understanding what your opponent is trying to do to you, anticipating it and trying to do something to them to counteract that. And Jahan Dotson is already playing that game within a game. There was a ball where he accelerated ever so briefly to get the cornerback to accelerate because he knew the ball was underthrown. And then he just cut inside of them and made a beautiful downfield catch. These are the things that make me think Jahan Dotson's going to be really good. But we got off on a Jahan Dotson tangent. He is a wide receiver 3 flex. Curtis Samuel is a wide receiver 3 flex, getting some of that extra usage in the running game. So you like this group of receivers. And see, there's even some talk that, hey, if Carson Wentz can win these last 2 games, get Washington into the playoffs, maybe pull off a playoff upset in round 1, that's your quarterback next year, Washington. Why not, right? They have the structure around him now, at least in terms of this wide receiver group, to really make some good things happen. Oh, we haven't even mentioned Logan Thomas. Logan Thomas had 6 catches last week. Carson Wentz for Logan Thomas more. And Brian Robinson, who's that clear number 1. Antonio Gibson banged up. And you would think in this game that Robinson will get at least 20 carries, chance at a touchdown. So Washington, I know that there are some teams probably rooting for them to lose. Well, at least the Packers. We'll get to that. But this has been a good story. And see, maybe this is the rowing upstream against your owner bowl, like you have an owner, then you have players and coaches and people who want to win, play hard and stand for great franchises and great histories. And it's good that Washington fans have something good to cheer about, and we'll see if they can keep going.
Just wait till they get a new owner. It all starts at the top, everybody. So the talent is there. We'll see how it comes together as we continue on. Jacksonville, Houston. Actually, I'm just thinking like next week, Jacksonville, Tennessee, please. But Jacksonville this week. The assets we already know, including more Evan Ingram. Like, yes, please, let's go for it. And against Houston, well, Houston's been plucky. You've been putting. Stop winning, Houston. You're going to screw it up.
Yeah. Exactly. You have no margin of error now. See, we can really just handle this game kind of in one take.
I was going to do that. So yes,
yeah, it's a meaningless game for Jacksonville, but you're still going to play Travis Etienne. You're still going to play Evan Ingram. Now we'll see how Doug Peterson handles that. Although remember, Doug Peterson very famously wanted to keep playing hard in a game that didn't mean anything. Well, and that's how Doug Peterson ends up here. Nick Sirianni, all those sliding doors moments in the NFL. Trevor Lawrence, Christian Kirk, Zay Jones, they're not automatic plays. Houston actually has been pretty tough on opposing passing games this year, surprisingly. So I can get it. We just talked about Carson Wentz. If someone comes to me and says Lawrence or Wentz, I'm thinking about going Wentz. I'm not going to talk you out of that here. On the Houston side, there's Brandon Cooks, something, nothing. Well, they're playing with pride. They've given us some good moments. We still get to hang out with Lovie Smith. That'll be sad whenever we don't see him around these parts. And that's it. I think that we can all agree now that this Jacksonville team is a good story, and it will make a much nicer wild card matchup if it's them and not Malik Willis. No disrespect to Willis. Maybe 2 or 3 years down the line, we could see him in a playoff game.
Good thing our man pot stoner degenerate Jason is here, our resident Raiders fan, because we got to talk 49ers and Raiders up next.
Oh,
and Bloom.
boy.
Yeah, oh boy is right. We'll save the Raiders for a little bit. Let's get to the 49ers. And again, Brock Purdy, George Kittle. It's been a beautiful thing. Keep it up. And, of course, everyone else was San Francisco. You've made it this far. You already know who you're going to start from the 49ers. And it could be quite the day.
It should be quite the day.
No Chandler Jones, no Denzel Perryman. Like, wow.
Yeah, and we'll talk about the state of the Raiders franchise and the Raiders team right now. But absolutely, Brock Purdy. So, and there's a wide swath of quarterbacks. I mean, what are the quarterbacks that we can really count on this week? Burrow, Allen, and Mahomes? Really? Quarterbacks that were just short, lead pipe locks in your lineup. Purdy is one. Remember, he scored a rushing touchdown earlier in his tenure. So he's a safer play. And if you get distance bonuses for touchdowns, there he is looking for George Kittle getting those long touchdowns. See, so you get the feeling that if Jimmy Garoppolo had just been looking for Kittle, Kittle could have been doing this, right? I mean, he's there. He's open. He's there. Brandon Ayukson had his longest reception of his career. Christian McCaffrey After all that hand wringing, he's healthy and fine at the end of the year. And the San Francisco defense, maybe the best play of all, although someone's asking San Francisco or the Giants defense because the Giants get Nick Foles. You're going to go with San Francisco defense against Stiddy?
Jarrett Stidham in for the Las Vegas Raiders. Derek Carr's been benched, and not only that, Bloom, he's going to stay away from the team. So he's just done. He's done. And as the chat room is saying, was Barry, Adams is not happy. They get Devontae Adams to reunite him with Derek Carr from Fresno State, and now they're going to get rid of Derek Carr. This is Josh McDaniels, ladies and gentlemen. And Josh McDaniels told the Broncos years ago, I can win with anybody. Wanted Matt Castle, couldn't get him, traded away Jay Cutler, promptly traded those picks, including for Alfonso Smith, the 5'5" corner, who's taller than that, but still, like, you traded away a first rounder so you could get Alfonso Smith. So Josh McDaniels, known for running teams into the ground,
right?
And well, Derek Carr will be the Jets quarterback next year, like
Panthers.
I don't know. I don't know. Well, Panthers getting Lamar Jackson, but either way, like we'll see him somewhere else.
Yeah,
and then this week that makes you a little less confident in your Raiders.
Yeah. The Steelers ended Derek Carr's tenure as the Raiders quarterback, but Derek Carr is not the assailant here. He's the victim. And since you already anticipated where I was going with this, is I'm going to say you covered a Josh McDaniels team. Let the folks know how Josh McDaniels might have fit into this, and Mark Davis too. But Mark Davis, come on. You're not going to, don't give Mark Davis the keys to who let Mark Davis drive? But Josh McDaniels is supposed to be this great coach. We were waiting for that second chance. He was going to follow in the footsteps of Bill Belichick. Second job. He was going to figure it out. He learned all the lessons, right? And no, I don't think so. So if you're looking at Josh Jacobs, you're looking at Devontae Adams, and you're saying, oh, I really don't know if I want to play them. You're right. And this is where you make your money as a fantasy football player. Someone said Josh Jacobs or Cam Akers. I'm going to play Akers. I think I'm not going to talk you out of that. I might not even talk you out of guys like J.K. Dobbins or Devin Singletary over him this week because it's San Francisco. And see, let's just go off on a little tangent really quick here. Okay. Seeing how we all reacted to seeing Derek Carr getting benched, and not just getting benched. He's not coming to the game. He didn't get fired.
Stay away.
He got demoted. Okay. That wasn't Derek Carr's decision. Was that Derek Carr's decision? I don't think that was Derek Carr's decision. How do you think that team is feeling, Cecil? You want to just riff on that for a second? How is the feeling? And we're not just talking about, we're not going to make the playoffs or our coach got fired or something like that. Whatever we think about Derek Carr up here in fantasy football land or peeking through our keyholes, I'm pretty sure that team was invested in Derek.
Yes,
Carr.
very much so. And the team loves him. I got 4 words for you. None of them are cuss words, Joe. Don't worry about it. 1, 2, 3, Cancun.
Yeah.
How's this team feel? They're checked out, baby.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's sad. And they weren't checked out against the Steelers last week.
No,
they were not. Hey, Josh McDaniels, you got yourself another year to coach this team and show people how good you are, really show people that you're not good. So maybe in some ways there's some justice there. Even Darren Waller, also tight end's a lower bar, but it's Jarrett Stidham. And it's a Raiders team that knows that no matter what they do, they're going to end up back where they started.
Going to end up back where they started. Well, hopefully we've got some better news with these next 2 teams that we talk about in part 2 of the Week 17 preview. It's Jets and Seattle. And the Jets side, they're back to Mike White. So quarterback change, but a quarterback change that makes you feel good because it's back to Mike White, who could give them some punch, much needed punch that they need. And I had to write about Denzel Mims yesterday on the news. I was like, poor Denzel Mims. Like, just get to a second team, buddy. Mm-hmm. But the people that are going to play and make an impact for the Jets on the road in the loudest place to play, Seattle. Well, who do you trust this week?
Yeah, this is a pre-playoff game. So it's not, if you win this game, you're not necessarily in, but if you lose, you're probably out. And let's call this one the Jamal Adams Bowl. Although it's funny because it hasn't really made a difference on either franchise. Mike White is back. Now, Mike White is one of those quarterbacks that I'm not excited to play this week out of that huge group of quarterbacks that you could see good things, you could see maybe disappointing things. It's first week back. I know that his ribs have mended enough for the doctors to clear him. I just don't know. Garrett Wilson, I know about him. There's a mess at running back, Zonovan Knight, Michael Carter, Ty Johnson. Mess at tight end, Tyler Conklin, CJ Uzomah. So there's not a lot of clarity here outside of Garrett Wilson. There's clarity that the Jets have overachieved. There is clarity that Robert Saleh is a good head coach.
Yes.
He's a good head coach. Let's not see one of those things. See, if there's one of those situations where only the GM or head coach is going to survive, please don't make the wrong decision, Jets. Please don't. It's Robert Saleh. That's the reason this team has overachieved, not Joe Douglas. Geno Smith was the reason the Seahawks have been overachieving. Can he continue to against a tough Jets defense? Quentin Williams?
I am not so sure the way it's been going, but now with more Tyler Lockett. And by the way, as Audible listeners know, there's a behind-the-scenes battle between Robert Saleh and the Jets GM, and it was over Zach Wilson. And guess who didn't want Zach Wilson? Robert Saleh.
Yeah, and was very patient.
Yes.
So
hey,
patient.
Here's your guy. Here's your guy. Here's your guy. See, can't play. Can I coach, please? Can I get back to this, please? Like, that's what Robert Saleh has been saying, allegedly, or whatever I have to say. Seattle side now with more Tyler Lockett just means more Kenneth Walker. You know, all right. We'll see if Seattle can hold up at home against that Jets nasty defense.
Yeah, and Geno Smith again, another one that he's in the middle of that pack. That pack of quarterbacks that could let us down or come through for us, but you would expect Tyler Lockett to be back, so you like that. The report was he was out there catching passes in the walkthrough, no pain. Surgery on his finger a week and a half ago, no pain. It's a really good sign that he's going to play. You still want to play DK Metcalf, maybe Noah Fant, maybe Will Dissly's on IR. Hate seeing that again. Maybe Colby Parkinson if you have to dig deep for a tight end. But I think you're right, Cease. This is Ken Walker. They did not really start leaning on him until the second half. And if they had gone out, and we're in week 16, week 17, week 18. It's the end of the season. Ken Walker's rookie. Now, here's where, sign me up for 30 Ken Walker carries. 35.
Yeah.
I mean, why not? I think that he is the kind of running back. More, please, more.
That's why you got him.
Yeah, and then you set up Geno Smith on downfield play action passes. So, and that's also the face of the Jets defense you want to face is the run defense, not that pass rush, not Quinnen Williams. So I think this is a great week to have Kenneth Walker. I think he's a top 5 running back this week. And again, we'll see who can keep their Cinderella story going.
Keep it going with this one, big one, NFC North. Why was I clapping funny? I was clapping like a circus seal. Go Frosk! Anyway,
throw him a fish.
Yeah, there you go. Reminds me of Jane Silent Bob. I go like a circus seal. Anyway, I can't finish that sentence. It's Jay and Silent Bob. So sorry, exactly. Joe, for suggesting that. But anyway, Vikings and Packers. This one is a huge one, big one, and it's more fun on the Aaron Rodgers side of things. When does Rodgers not make it interesting? Okay, he's an aloha, everybody. Shocker, but it's interesting. So Packers in a little bit. But let's talk about Vikings and all the normal assets that you're going to play and what auxiliary assets that you can trust now, like a KJ Osborne. People want to know. But Hawkinson, yes. Jefferson, yes. Thielen and Osborne, let's discuss. And Cook, of course, yes, with Cousins.
Right. Minnesota's still trying to get that number 2 seed, which could be important. That being said, we're getting that time of year where you got to beat the teams one way or the other. So they've got motivation here. Kirk Cousins, top 7 quarterback, somewhere in that 5, 6, 7 range. Someone gave me a question this morning, Cousins or Goff. That's tough. I went with Goff because he's playing indoors and playing the lesser defense, but Cousins has been playing well. You know, you get Cousins in your lineup. That's a way to get Justin Jefferson in your lineup. Justin Jefferson going for 2K. What is TJ Hawkinson going to do as an encore? A lot of TJ Hawkinson teams in the fantasy championship because of TJ Hawkinson. I'm one of them. Dalvin Cook, we're waiting for that big game. He's still pretty spry. They haven't overworked him. So you have a not so much a boom bust, but kind of an 8 to 25 or 30 point range for Dalvin Cook. And some of it depends on how much of this offense falls on Cousins and Jefferson. Not really looking at Osborne or Thielen as options in this one. And really this game and the character and tenor of it for fantasy football could really come down to how well Aaron Rodgers does,
Right.
and whether the Packers defense is able to make some stops. The Packers are able to control the clock with their running game. Then it's not so good of a game for the Vikings offense. But if Aaron Rodgers successfully attacks that very questionable Vikings secondary, and this turns into a high scoring game, it could be a lot of fun for fantasy. I know it was fun when Randy Moss fake mooned the Packers crowd.
Yeah, and remember the controversy over that? Like, think of how like that'd be so tame right now, right? Oh, Randy
Mhm.
Moss, he didn't even pull his pants down.
No,
Like today, you would, and like
today,
I'm
like,
I'm
who
wearing a
should
jock
have?
strap. Yeah, I'm
and
wearing a jock
he should
strap.
have underwear on that said like cheese heads or something. I don't know.
Kiss my cheese head.
Right.
There you go.
Who
Like,
cut the
yeah.
cheese?
There, see, Randy Moss, everybody. That was so controversial. It necessarily wasn't that long ago, but it's like so dumb
Yeah,
that people were so upset. And then he faked moon the crowd.
hurt my feelings.
I know. Get your safe space ready, Aaron Rodgers, right? And it comes down to him, dude.
Yeah,
I mean, it always does, so it's not like it's revelation or anything, but like what they should do and what Rodgers will do are always at odds.
Mhm.
Always. So
Mhm.
what they should is feed the running backs. I don't know if they're going to do that.
Mhm.
Aaron Jones has been difficult to trust. AJ Dillon's been difficult to trust. Aaron Rodgers has been difficult to trust. So, fantasy championship, it's all on the line. It's at home at Lambeau. Weather's not going to be much of a factor.
No.
Who do you trust?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I really don't have a good Alan Lazard. I don't really have a good answer to that. This team is still alive. Now, if Cleveland beats Washington, Green Bay will know that they just have to win out to go to the playoffs. And even if Washington wins, they could still lose in week 18. Or if the Giants lose twice, and we'll see what the outcome of that Giants and Indianapolis game is by then. So this could be a very meaningful game, or, it could be a game that, well, we see that they run out of gas. Is Aaron Jones okay? He says he's okay, but is he okay? This is a Packers staff that is pretty conservative, and A.J. Dillon does have a lot left in the tank. This may be a game where Dillon is a better play than Jones. Watch those practice reports closely. Christian Watson, I do not expect to play. He didn't practice yet. Was ruled out with that hip injury. So I think Alan Lazard's back to being the number one receiver. It is a Viking secondary that we are wanting to pick on. Even Romeo Doubs gets into the what the heck flex mix this week. Aaron Rodgers, again, in that big group of quarterbacks. I could see a game where he has 3 touchdowns, 250 passing yards. I could see a game where he has 150 passing yards, no touchdowns, and hands the ball off 35 times, and he wins like a 16-13 kind of game. I think it should definitely be an entertaining game and a meaningful game. For fantasy, if the Packers defense and running game responds, might not be one that gets you over the hump.
It's the Battle of LA. And did Kroenke really say that, hey, if the Chargers win, they don't have to pay rent? Like, I don't know. Whatever. It's
What?
the
Really?
Battle of Los Angeles. He might have been kidding, or someone might have been
That's
pulling
a lot
my
of
leg.
money.
That is a lot of money. So with Kroenke, the answer is no, he didn't say that.
I doubt it.
No, he didn't say that. Homeboy loves his money, and he loves his Rams, right? Rams and Chargers is up next. So let's discuss this thing. And, well, the bounce back game that was the Denver Broncos. They dropped a 50 burger last week, probably going to score about 25. And it sound like the 2 Bobs. What if we put 4 people directly underneath you? Like, what if we get you 24 points this week for the Rams? And, well, Cam Akers, you mentioned it. Like, okay, Akers, yes. Higbee, there's a lot of people in the fantasy championship because of Tyler Higbee.
Yeah.
Yes, please. And more Baker Mayfield slinging it against Justin Herbert. Sounds like a fun game on Sunday.
Yeah, I think so. The Battle of LA. Not a lot on the line here. I do think Tyler Higbee is someone you don't overthink this. You see the chemistry there with him and Baker Mayfield. And Cam Akers looks spry. He looks good. We have to remember this. We talk a lot about motivation. and we're thinking about it in terms of teams, right? But there is also a lot of individual motivation here.
Mhm.
And there are players getting opportunities that they know they may not get again, right? So for Cam Akers, because of the way things have gone with the Rams, he has a chance to establish a stepping stone to a second contract with the way he's playing at the end of this year. So absolutely, I think Cam Akers is somebody that if you're weighing and thinking about it, I'm not saying play Cam Akers over Josh Jacobs. I'm saying I'm not going to talk you out of that. And it may well end up being the right answer in hindsight. And we saw his ceiling last week, and Baker's on his career rehab tour. We're also watching Tutu Atwell, Van Jefferson, those dynasty futures, of course, in this game. For the Chargers, I think we have the question, Cecil, and I wanted to tee this one up for you, because right now the Chargers do have a scenario where, and Baltimore, they won't know the outcome of the game. So Baltimore needs to lose once, and the Chargers need to win twice. I think, don't quote me on this, but I think it works out something like that for them to jump from the 6 seed to the 5 seed.
They need that 5 seed, or else they're going to go to Cincinnati or Kansas City. So the Chargers are playing for quite a bit, and it is 2 wins and a Baltimore loss.
Right. So, but here's my question about that. Is that smart, really? Because you have to beat a Kansas City. You have to beat 2 out of Kansas City, Buffalo, or Cincinnati in all likelihood to make the Super Bowl anyway.
Well, let's go down narrative street with the Chargers. They're a team that regularly chokes, although they've been changing that over the last 5 games or whatever, and all those close wins. 3 of their 4 wins have been close wins, so they're kind of learning that. So for this team specifically, Bloom, and I'm not a fan of losing to dodge an opponent, but if you're telling me, hey, they got to win and get some help, like, yeah, keep winning. You should always keep winning. And that team specifically needs a warm-up playoff, and they need a Jacksonville warm-up playoff game so that they can go, yeah, and we can do it in the postseason too.
You're right. I think maybe the best argument for not letting up isn't anything to do with the 5 seed or 6 seed, although I think you're right that because this team, there's not a lot of players on this team that have playoff experience. Joey Bosa going to be back for the playoffs. There are not a lot of players on this team with playoff experience, so you'd rather their introduction to that higher intensity level be against another team like Jacksonville that doesn't have a lot of playoff experience. So then you get warmed up a little bit and you understand what it takes. But I think the best argument is just to keep the continuity of how you prepare for the game, how you approach the game, and not to interrupt that and then to resume it, right? I think that we don't understand, just real quick, Cease, as we do at tangents, how on a scale of 1 to 10, how much are teams as an entity, as an organism, creatures of habit?
10.
11, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's so important. It's why Thursday night football sucks for them. That's why it often sucks for us. Because it's all based on those routines.
It's
and
rhythm, biorhythms.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. That's why we talk about, think about how silly it is. You would think it was superstitious or astrology to say when West Coast teams travel east for an early game, but we see it. I don't know. Probably there's some betting site out there that has run the numbers and said, no, there's no such thing.
Right.
Anyway, so the Chargers, with all that in mind, first, let's just say, hooray, Justin Herbert's going to be in the playoffs. Can we just take a moment out to say, that's nice?
Yeah.
That's going to be fun. Let's break the seal on that. Austin Eckler. Now, could Austin Eckler be like Derrick Henry? Austin Eckler got in a limited practice as of right now, like Derrick Henry did. Derrick Henry's not playing because, well, Tennessee's saving it up for next week. Is that how they look at Austin Eckler? Or at the very least, do you see more Joshua Kelly? Is Joshua Kelly the sleeper of the week? Do you see more Joshua Kelly in this one, especially at the goal line, especially where you want to save Austin Eckler some punishment? You got to play Eckler if you have him as long. This isn't like Tony Pollard, right? Tony Pollard, if he plays tonight, I still don't even know. He might play a couple of series and then say, okay, good, got the blood flowing. Eckler, you still have to play him, even if it's just one series. You could have 50 total yards and a touchdown on that series. Herbert's in for you, top 5 quarterback play this week. Allen's in for you. Mike Williams is in for you. Gerald Everett not in for you. Donald Parham messing up that picture for you. So maybe Everett helped you get this far. He's not going to help you get over the hump in the Battle of LA.
The Battle of Los Angeles, which leads us to our next game, Bloom. So many great memories and so many great times. Basically, just remember Polamalu jumping over the line to like reverse pile drive. This sounds like an innuendo. It's not. Reverse pile drive Joe Flacco. Sorry, Joe Plus. Like, oh my God. Steelers Ravens.
Mhm.
Yeah. Steelers Ravens. Like
Mhm.
that's it. That's all you
Mhm.
need to say.
Mhm.
Now
That's
it's
this
Ravens
week.
with
Yeah.
Tyler Huntley. And I do want to just kind of talk about this game all at once, Bloom, just because it's like it's Steelers Ravens. It's this monumental epic thing. And also with the Steelers and Mike Tomlin and the winning season streak, it's all still alive. Like it's all still there, and you're facing your biggest foe. And the reason I hate the Ratbirds, and Brandon Stokely always gets upset with me when I call him the Ratbirds because he won a Super Bowl with them, the most boring Super Bowl ever, Super Bowl 35, is because they're mirror images when they're at their peak. When they're at their peak, run the ball, defense, physical, gonna beat you up. Like we get to see Steelers Ravens in week 17. Let's get it on.
Yeah, let's get it on. And again, because Cincinnati is playing, it maybe adds a little bit of intrigue here because Cincinnati's playing after this.
Right.
There's lots of different implications for both teams here. But for the Steelers, we can talk about playoff implications. I will. We can talk about Mike Tomlin's streak of never having losing season. But also, it's the Ravens. It's prime time. And yeah, they're going to be up for this one. Oh, Cecil, you want to get sad with me for a second? Okay, so you're a Steelers fan. You got to root for the Patriots this week. Oh my God, you got to root for the Patriots this week, and you got to root for the Seahawks. But if the Patriots can beat the Dolphins and the Seahawks can beat the Jets going into this game, now we're talking. And remember, I was looking at Cecil, they got a 2% chance to make the playoffs. Now, last year was a 12% chance to make the playoffs going into week 17. But one of those things actually ended up being the Jags, like a 2-touchdown underdog, beating the Colts. So the odds were pretty long last year, too. So don't tell me the odds, right? I don't want to hear about the odds. But just know this. The Steelers, the reason they're in this position is because the Dolphins, Jets, and Patriots all have the tiebreaker on the Steelers because the Steelers lost to all three. Let's walk back down memory lane for a second. How did the Steelers lose to New England? Because Gunnar Olszewski, Patriots great, muffed a punt. How did the Steelers lose to the Jets? They were up 20-10 in the fourth quarter, and the Jets quarterback was Zach Wilson. How did that happen? How did Zach Wilson lead 2 touchdown drives against the Steelers in the fourth quarter? And then against Miami, Kenny Pickett had the ball on the Miami side of the field down 6 twice in the fourth quarter and threw 2 interceptions. And what's crazier, Cease, is if they had won those 3 games, we'd be talking about them in contention to win the division.
Right.
They were all winnable games. Game of inches, right? Here's my order of desirability plays. Pat Freiermuth is your tight end 1. We know Pickett likes to look to him in the middle of the field. Najee Harris, love that running on those receptions on that game-winning drive last week. You know that he's going to be getting as much as he can handle here. And then George Pickens and Deontay Johnson. Johnson's a little banged up. Pickens finally getting that big breakthrough touchdown last week. And then Kenny Pickett, I guess, is a desperation quarterback, 2 super flex type. There's not going to be a lot of scoring in this game. This is going to be a field position. Don't turn the ball over. Don't make any big mistakes. It's going to come down to some big plays, physical punishment, playing through pain. Lots of pain in this game, but for which Ravens quarterback?
Yeah, and it's got to be Tyler Huntley. I mean, it's Thursday morning, full disclosure. We haven't got the Thursday reports in, I don't believe. Bloom, if I'm mistaken, let me know. Lamar Jackson's not practicing.
Right.
So Steelers, Ravens, now with more Tyler Huntley. And listen, Huntley, nice athlete, all those sorts of things. We've seen how limited he is as a passer. And that's not changing. There's no growth or development there, unfortunately. And, Huntley's a nice story or whatever, interesting, intriguing prospect. But if you're not developing as a passer, you're not going to make it in this league. And as a starter, now there's plenty of film on Tyler Huntley. The Steelers are going to know what to do, and they're going to get the hell after him. They're going to unleash hell on Tyler Huntley on Sunday.
Yeah, they are. And I don't remember the number, Cease. I don't know what this is, like the 6th, 7th, 8th matchup primetime between Tomlin and Harbaugh. That's awesome. Right? I mean, it's just this is a classic. We talk about classic franchise matchups. We have a classic coach matchup. He called him Harbs in the press conference. That's neat. Nice. And Cease, you know why I like the fact that this is one of the classic head coach matchups of this era of the NFL? Because both of these guys have shown you don't need to be some sort of bite your head off personality to run an NFL team and make them good every year, right? They're adults, like you say about Colorado.
Yeah.
They're going to treat you like adults, right? How many times have you seen them losing their cool? That's not the type of coaches they are. So it's really fun to watch these guys have success year after year. There's not a lot here for fantasy on the Ravens side. Mark Andrews, I guess. But if someone said, I've got Higbee, I've got Andrews, what has Mark Andrews done lately? Like I've talked about, others have. Maybe he's playing hurt. J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards, they're flex plays. They're not preferred running backs twos. Both of these teams are going to try to establish the run. We'll see if they're able to do it. Tyler Huntley, kind of like Kenny Pickett, a desperation play. And we'll see, because if they can win this game, Baltimore, then next week's game against Cincinnati will be for the division title. It will be for a home game. So it's a pretty big deal. And you have to think the smart angle from the Ravens' point of view is Lamar Jackson's not healthy. And if he's not healthy enough to practice to begin the week, he probably shouldn't play. So let's see what happens. If the Ravens lose and the Bengals win and the division's done, that's okay. You can give Lamar Jackson another week rest, and let's come out in the wild card round and see what we can do. Now, Buffalo beats Cincinnati. We're going to talk about that in a second. Baltimore wins this game. Well, then you saved up Lamar Jackson to try to win the division and get a home game to open up the playoffs. Let's see what happens first. I think you're right. It is going to be Tyler Huntley.
So, Bloom, I'm glad on Sunday we're going to recap after the early games. Programming note.
Yeah.
Because the Broncos play early, so we'll just do it after. Because I don't want to miss it. Don't want to close my eyes.
Don't want to miss a thing.
Yeah, exactly. Steven Tyler, he could French kiss a moose. Anyway. And Monday night, so much fun. Because this is a AFC Championship preview. You know, this is an incredibly important playoff game preview. Wherever these two teams meet, if they meet, it's Buffalo and Cincinnati, man. Like, so just bask in the glow. Like, you get the appetizer. Because Ravens Steelers has the opportunity to not really be a good game. It'll be good. It'll be fun. It'll be tough. It'll be physical. It'll be 12-3. You know what I mean? Like, something like that. Buffalo, Cincinnati. I mean, this is why you love football. So, again, it's championship week. A lot of championships will not be decided until Monday, and there should be a lot of deciding factors on Monday. And the Buffalo side first, of course, you already know, Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs and everybody else that you would normally consider. And man alive, I just want to get popcorn and have fun watching this game.
Yeah, and for Buffalo, the playoff implications are simple. They have to keep winning to hold on to the number one seed.
Because we know Kansas City's winning.
Yeah, we know Kansas City's going to win out. So on the Buffalo side, Josh Allen, since he hurt his elbow, hasn't been quite the same as a fantasy quarterback, but he's still in your lineup. And he's still got enough juice that you're going to obviously play Stephon Diggs. But I think Gabriel Davis becomes interesting here, even though Cincinnati's pass defense is pretty good, just because it only takes one. And, well, Josh Allen likes to try those throws and convert them. Dawson Knox, he's come on at the right time. Dawson Knox or Mark Andrews? It's Dawson Knox. I think he has touchdowns in 3 straight weeks. And Devin Singletary and James Cook. Every time I look at them, I'm more inclined. So, I'll take a Buffalo back over a Baltimore back this week. I'll take a Buffalo back over a Carolina back this week, probably. When you look at these committees, probably wouldn't take a Buffalo back over Kansas City back. But that's about it when we look at these committees, okay? Probably take the Green Bay backs over the Buffalo backs. But you see how Cook has that energy. Singletary is so tough to bring down. And Cecil, we've been talking about this back to September, saying Buffalo's got to establish the run at some point. You can't go, even Isaiah Pacheco, the Chiefs know, we've got to show that we can run the ball. We've got to get some practice, work out that, flex that muscle. Right. And Buffalo did it last week magnificently against Chicago. So I like the momentum here also because, again, Cincinnati's pass defense has been pretty good. But now for Cincinnati, as we transition, if Baltimore wins, they still have to win next week against Baltimore. Now, if Baltimore loses to Pittsburgh, you might say, well, you can lock up the division here. It gives you a little more margin of error. I don't think Cincinnati cares. And I think for Cincinnati, because they didn't have to beat Buffalo on the way to the Super Bowl last year, it's supremely important how they do in this game for both of these teams, right? Because it's that feeling that if you see them in about a month, that you get the drop on them.
Right.
You'll be in the back of their heads knowing like, last time we played, we lost because of this. And it would give you that psychological advantage. And also it's Joe Burrow. I just can't imagine a Joe Burrow team going into a game against another excellent team and thinking, yeah, we can win, we can lose, because they're not going to get the number 1 seed. Kansas City's going to win out. So I think that still this sets up to be a tremendous game, give us that taste of playoff intensity, and Joe Burrow in prime time. We haven't had enough of that this year.
Thank you, Joe Burrow, for rejuvenating everything and making everything better, because here's another thing Joe Burrow won't do. We don't want to show him everything. Nah. Joe Burrow will be like, this is what we're going to do. Stop it.
Yeah.
Stop it. And I would like to see some more Samaje Perine, honestly. If I'm game planning against Buffalo, I run it down their throat.
Yeah.
Now, but it's Joe Burrow, so they could do that. But it's Joe Burrow. He'll keep slinging it, whatever. And certainly when Mixon's been back, Perine's done nothing. But it would be a big Mixon day and a big Perine day. Might be a big day for one of those guys, and it's Joe Mixon.
Yeah, it's Mixon.
And then everybody else that you normally start with Cincinnati.
Yeah, Chase and Higgins, and obviously, we'll keep.
And Hayden Hurst may be back too.
Yeah, he might be back.
If Mitchell Wilcox is getting targets,
that's true. I mean, look, I can imagine tight ends. I would say you play Hayden Hurst over
Mark Andrews, Hayden Hurst.
Yeah, well, we have to know that Hurst has gotten in a full practice and is definitely playing. That's the hard part. But Burrow has been outstanding. Mixon getting more involved in the passing game. Chase and Higgins, and we'll see. And let's line them up and let's watch them play this one. And again, hopefully at that point, you forget if you have some fantasy championship on the line and you just get caught up in this game. And again, another moment to say the quarterbacks we were promised have arrived. And somehow coming out of, quite honestly, Cease, I would say the aughts into the early teens was probably the golden age of NFL quarterback play. I mean, as far as how many great quarterbacks we got to watch every Sunday. And I was worried, where are the quarterbacks going to come to play? Well, here's 2 of them. And it's really fantastic. And it really gets you excited, Cease, because it gets you remembering what we experienced last January in these games, in the Cincinnati-Tennessee game, in the Buffalo and Kansas City game, in the Kansas City and Cincinnati game. The end of the Buffalo Kansas City game was probably as truly feeling we throw the word disbelief around a lot, right? What does true disbelief feel like? The end of that game, not the 13 seconds, but well before the last 4 minutes. I felt like I was talking to Matt Schauf, because I accidentally had a flashback. He called it a flashback, that Jordan Hicks was still on Arizona. And I said, where are the flashbacks I was promised? That was like a flashback, a beautiful, vivid flashback. We won't have to flash back to this one. We get to watch it live.
We're doing it live. And it's our final sleeper of the week, Bloom. You got to do it much louder, though. We need to tone down our music. First order of business, toning down our damn music. So sorry for blowing out your eardrums. Here we go. Sleeper, sleeper, sleeper.
It's time for the Sleeper of the Week, powered by Sleeper.
Oh, don't get me going, Sigmund. Don't get me going. I'll tell everybody everything. I'll tell it all. Anyway, I'm a little bit scared. I'm like nervous about this one. I want to say Randall Cobb, sleeper of the week. I might couch that and say Romeo Doubs. So give me a Packers receiver, not named. Well, we don't know if Christian Watts is going to play. Not named Alan Lazard. So yeah, Romeo, Randall, one of those guys. Sleeper of the week. Bloom, who's your what the heck flex?
Yeah,
sleeper of the week.
Go over the what the heck flex sleepers. Running back, and again, I'm defining sleeper as a player that, well, especially week 17, you're thinking, I'm really going to count on these guys. Tyler Algier, Cam Akers, both of the Buffalo Packs. Damian Harris, let's wait and see on his practice reports. I have a feeling if Damian Harris can get in a full practice, we might see him get 20 carries in this one. Remember, Ramondre Stevenson's been fumbling away the game. What's the best way to beat the Miami offense? Keep him on the sidelines. Malik Davis, waiting to hear about Tony Pollard. Malik Davis getting a lot of work in practice this week. So we're thinking it's Ezekiel Elliott week. Maybe it's a Malik Davis week. And Joshua Kelly, we talked about that. We're going to watch Austin Eckler, wide receiver, Kendrick Bourne, Jacoby Myers, because it is Miami. We'll see if Miami has a good day passing the ball, then those guys are going to have to contribute. You mentioned Romeo Doubs. He was on my list, Cease. All three of those Giants receivers again. Russell Gage, who's coming on, and DJ Chark, who hopefully is going to get paid this week. He can help you get paid against Chicago up at Ford Field.
Up at Ford Field. That is right. Championship week. We made it.
Yeah.
End of the year. Programming note, no live show tonight. So the live show is done until next April, and we will get a reunion show going for everybody. But the Thursday show will have a little bit different lineup next year. Don't want to tell you too much, but just stay tuned as always. Lester's asking, like, are we done until April? No.
No.
We'll do playoff previews. We'll do week 17 or week 18 preview. We will do Senior Bowl recap. We will do Shrine Bowl recap. We will do Super Bowl stuff, like and then all coaching carousel, off season, free agency preview, and honestly, Bloom, we might just get together to chat, right?
Yeah, and I think that I always want to keep the door open. We can't do everything that is asked, but any ideas y'all have for our off-season schedule?
How do I forget scuba and submarine and snorkel?
Right, of course. And anything else that y'all might, I mean, we'll do shows about free agency. We'll do some news and note shows whenever the NFL news cycle merits it. And like C said, just to hang out, because I think the longer we do this show, Cease, the value, not just for the audience, but for us, is getting to spend time together while we're here. It's a good thing.
It is a good thing, as always. He's Sigmund Bloom. I'm Cecil Lammey. We are the Audible. Go get that ring. Be safe. Be kind. Know that you're appreciated. Stay tuned. And as always, I ask that you stay frosty.